We've got updates on Supergirl, a new Will Ferrell Netflix comedy, and multiple upcoming horror projects, including a new Paranormal Activity movie. All that on this edition of Movie News Daily. Let's get into it. What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? Welcome back into JC's Movies, where you can see all kind of movie and TV show content with me, JC, especially within the superhero, comedy, and horror genres. And we'll be talking all three today. If you're a fan of those, be sure you hit that subscribe button. That way you can get these videos directly into your feed. We can talk some movies together and stay up to date with the ongoing movie news as I release this every Monday through Friday here on the channel. And you can do that just by hitting that subscribe button, which really helps me out. And you can also help out just with that thumbs up button, which will help this video find more movie fans like you and me. With that out of the way, let's get into Movie News Daily here on March 11th. Let's lead off with the Supergirl update. This one's been around, but DC Film News is where I'm pulling this tweet from. And we have a new composer for the movie, which interestingly enough is the third composer now for Supergirl. And, they're well into post-production with the film coming out this summer. So I do, think it's a weird time for, them to change composers, but maybe, they saw the cuts, they saw the dailies and something wasn't working according to, the director, maybe, whatever. And so they're going a different direction. Claudia Sarn will now be the composer for Supergirl. And she's previously been composer for things like Book of Eli, End of Watch. She replaces Junkie XL. And she is now, like I said, the third composer for this movie. So hopefully things jive with this one and it works out well and we end up with a good score for Supergirl. We'll see how it turns out, but a new composer on board just a few months ahead of the release. And then how about some news on a new Paranormal Activity film that's in the works? We know this one's supposed to come out, I think, May of 2027, if I'm not mistaken. And we now know that Will Eubank is set to direct and Christopher Landon will be writing the script, originally coming from Hollywood Reporter, discussing film, sharing this on social media. But that is in the works. And of course, it is described as an unexpected retooling of the franchise. And from what I've heard, they feel like they can do some interesting things now with today's camera technology for Paranormal Activity. So I'm up for it. Let's see what happens. And then speaking of Christopher Landon, who will be writing that Paranormal Activity movie, he's also going to be writing and directing a movie that's going to be called Final Boarding, which is a new supernatural horror film for Sony Pictures Screen Gems. Dread Central sharing this one. I believe it's based on a book, but another horror project coming from Christopher Landon, who we know from Freaky, Happy Death Day, and more recently Drop. He's set to helm Final Boarding, both writing and directing. And then how about a quick update on an upcoming comedy from Will Ferrell that's going to be a Netflix series. It's a Will Ferrell Netflix golf comedy, and it's officially titled The Hawk, and it will stream this summer. The official synopsis reads, Lonnie Hawkins, 2004's #1 golfer, struggles on the back nine of his career to recapture his magic. His body says retire, but his heart says he's not done yet. His ex-wife and his son Lance, golf's new golden boy, know he's through. But with one more major to win to complete golf's Grand Slam, Lonnie refuses to believe he's anything other than one stroke away from the greatest comeback in golf history. So, hey, I'm up for it. A Will Ferrell Netflix comedy series. Sign me up. I'm definitely going to check this one out as Variety shares that info for us. And there's a little bit of a teaser out, just Will Ferrell introducing himself as this Lonnie Hawkins, the Hawk character, which I think it's about 30 seconds long, but still pretty funny. And I think the show will be funny as well. And then I was happy to see this one because it seems like lately James Wan's been, kind of stepped out of the director chair and been more in a producing role, but he's coming back to direct an English language reimagining of The Gangster, the Cop, and the Devil. Don Lee set to star. It follows a police officer and a crime boss who reluctantly team up to track down a serial killer. So it sounds like an interesting enough story, as Discussing Film shares this from a Hollywood Reporter report. And I'll check this one out as well. James Wan, with that kind of crime/horror angle, always seems to do a good job. So this could be interesting. And then lastly, how about a serial killer series that's out right now, actually? All 8 episodes just dropped on Prime Video of the show we talked about in the past, Scarpetta, starring Nicole Kidman and Jamie Lee Curtis. David Gordon Green directed a few episodes of this, as well as the Horror Calendar shared it here on social media. And the synopsis is, forensic pathologist Dr. Kay Scarpetta investigates a haunting murder with eerie reminders of her first case. And then just lastly, before we wrap up another edition of Movie News Daily, How about a little of On This Day in movie history, talking about some movies that were released on March 11th as I continue to share this on my social media, both on Twitter and Instagram. And if you haven't yet, give me a follow there on Twitter as I try and build that up. As you see my handle there on the screen, I'd appreciate that. But on this day, some movies that were released. We had 10 Cloverfield Lane back in 2016, The Adam Project in 2022, and then Everything Everywhere All at Once in 2022. Hard to believe that was 4 years ago already, but man, what a great movie Everything Everywhere All at Once is. One of my favorite movies in the past, decade or so, probably. Really love that. But there are some projects that were released on this day in movie history. And with that, we will put another edition of Movie News Daily into the books here for our March 11th show. Appreciate you guys tuning into this one. Be sure, share this out on your social media as well. If you'd like, retweet it on my Twitter. All those things help me. Let's spread the word, get more people in here to the JC's Movies channel so we can all chat about movies together. And you've heard my thoughts on everything in this episode, but I'd love to hear yours as well. Drop some down in the comments. Let's talk some movies together. I appreciate that, and I appreciate those interactions. They help me to continue to grow the channel here on YouTube. Having said that, thanks for tuning into this one, and I will catch you on the next one.